Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Portsmouth Coffee Talk Podcast Network. And of course, this is the City Talk with Slim segment of that network. And welcome, everybody. This is Slim Overton. Hopefully, you know who I am by now. But anyway, we have a special guest with us this morning during this series of me talking to candidates for school board or city council. In this particular situation, we're talking to a city council candidate from the city of Chesapeake, and she is Gayle Gilmore. And good morning, Gayle. How are you?
I am doing great. Just doing great. Thank you, Mr. Overton.
Thank you for agreeing to be a guest here, and of course, we want to hear your platform. But I always have to tell this, and I can't tell this enough because Gayle and I go way back, and being respectful of your title and everything, but we've known each other so long. So, and I consider these conversations. So you might hear
Yeah,
me addressing her by Gayle,
not a problem.
and she might say Mr. Overton because I'm older, and that's the way we were brought up. Not that
We,
much, but
yeah,
you
we was
just brought up to look
raised
up
up
for
to
your
you
elders.
respectful. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
indeed. But anyway, yeah, I always have to tell the story how we met, and it was during the time when I was in the hospital with heart failure and was in need of a heart. So we were going through that situation, and I was sharing my experience every day on Facebook. I was just talking about it, and it was in my spirit to do that, even though I was facing whatever, one thing I did, the reason I was so uplifted, I knew God had me, and I left it, it was
Amen.
in his hands. It was not in
Yes,
my hands. And it was
yes.
up to him. If he had more for me to do in
Mm-hmm.
my life, he would let that happen. If
Yes,
he felt like he wanted me to be up there with him and had something for me to do, uh, uh, in another world, that was his will as well. So I
yes.
was up, I was kind of upbeat, even though it was a sort of tense situation. Would I get
Mm-hmm.
a heart? Would I get a second chance at life? And
Mm-hmm.
you reflect on all the things you have done. But my main purpose then was to share my experience, and for people that might have been going through it, or people that were counseling those doctor's appointments and said, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go next time, to make sure that they stayed. But anyway, then I guess people were watching, and one day, uh, Gail, Miss Gilmore, and her husband James came in. We
Yes.
didn't know each other, and they said they've been watching, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they were building a church at that time, and they
Yes.
were watching and blessed me,
Amen.
with a monetary gift, and just wanted to meet me, and I was glad to meet. We've been friends ever since, and then we
Yeah.
found out that we kind of, well, we grew up in Portsmouth, but when I
Right.
first met her, I didn't know that she was a Portsmouth native, but grew up
Mm-hmm.
in Portsmouth, and was in school around the time of my wife
Right.
was in school at Craddock High School. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like a full circle connection, even though we didn't know each other, but we had that Portsmouth connection. But I always have to tell that story because that meant so much to me at
Amen.
that time, and I think that was destined to happen.
Yes.
Some things happen, you know,
Just about. Yes.
and things don't just happen by happenstance. You know,
Mm-mm. Mm-hmm.
uh, so God, I believe, sent them to me, and they've been a blessing to me ever since, through their friendship and fellowship. But
Yes.
anyway, we are here this morning because she is a candidate, like I said, for the city council of Chesapeake, and it's not her first rodeo as far as running for elective office. And
Yes.
before I let her do her platform, I have to tell you, when I coming from Portsmouth, from being a smaller city, we all, when somebody runs, we pretty much know that person or know the family or something like that, or know of them, or it doesn't take us long uh, to get to know them once they start running. When you look at a city like Chesapeake, one of the largest landmass cities in the Hampton Roads area, I always wondered, how does somebody run in the city of Chesapeake with it's spread out? It's the
Yeah.
reason, the way it's spread out, because we were talking earlier, it's almost like you got these pockets of rural areas still in
Mhm.
Chesapeake. A part of Chesapeake is right near the North Carolina line, so
Mhm.
so it's spread out, and so Chesapeake almost touches all the cities. You ride through Chesapeake, you might ride into Virginia Beach and then ride back into Chesapeake. You ride
Mhm.
through Chesapeake, you ride into Portsmouth and then
But-
ride back into Chesapeake. You ride in Chesapeake, you ride into Norfolk and then
Right.
ride back into
Yes.
Chesapeake. So that's the way Chesapeake is.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about how that is to run, but
Mhm.
Gail, give us your platform. Well, introduce yourself a little
Yes.
bit, so people that don't know you, I don't know who that may be, but anyway, people who
All
don't
right.
know you, in order to start off letting us know about your platform.
Well, everywhere I go, and I don't care where I'm at, I'm going to start out with a testimony. Yes, I am a co-pastor and I'm a minister. But, as you were talking earlier, and even how we met, when I think about the goodness of Jesus and all that he's done, my soul just cries out, hallelujah. Even for us to meet, as you mentioned earlier, me and your wife went to school together at Craddock, and I know the
And we didn't know
Greyhounds.
that at first.
Yes, and I know the Greyhounds are out there. I know that. But we had graduated from Craddock High School, and I want to let y'all know I am a P-Town girl. I grew up in the Brighton section of Portsmouth, Virginia. I graduated from Craddock High School, and I went on to Virginia Commonwealth University. I got my bachelor's degree in music education. My dream, I was going to be a band director, but that didn't work out. But then I went on to get my master's degree at Old Dominion University, and in guidance and counseling. And then I was employed at Central Norfolk General Hospital for about 10 years. I did the birth certificates. I was vital statistics. I probably processed some of the people's babies out there. I processed like over 3,000 birth certificates a year. And then the Lord blessed me to move into education, and I served as a guidance counselor for a total of 23 years in the city of Norfolk, Virginia, and Chesapeake, Virginia. And as you heard, my husband and I, we pastor Grace and Twine Ministries in Portsmouth, Virginia. We're getting ready to celebrate actually 14 years coming up, and we just give God the glory. But again, Mr. Overton, and I'm going to be respectful because that's how, like you said, that's how we were raised. We grew up to say Mr. and Mrs. And I know Mr. Overton doesn't mind me saying that. I'm not going to be calling you Slim. I'm going to call you Mr. Overton.
Yes, indeed.
But
That's perfectly fine.
Amen. But this is going to be, I just want to let you know, this is going to be a very important election from the local level, state level, even up to the federal level. But it starts here at the local level. I ran across a quote that Senator Cory Booker quotes a lot. He says, "The power of the people is greater than the people in power." And we have to keep that in mind because we're about 77 days away from the election. And again, this is going to be an important one. And my service is, I'm used to service. I to be called I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician, but I am a servant. I am a servant because according to scripture, and I may mention a lot of scripture because that's what drives me. Mark 10:45 says that even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom. And some would ask a question, would Jesus serve on city council? Well, despite the fact that there should be a separation of church and state, let me get that. The prophet Isaiah says something very different in Isaiah 9, 6 and 7. This is what Isaiah prophesied. He said, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government, did you hear me, Mr. Overton? The government shall be on his shoulders. All right. He should be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, and Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. Not only is there should be no separation of church and state, but the government is on his shoulders. And I see myself as one of 9 armor bearers, of the local government when I'm elected on November the 3rd. So I want to get into my platform because the government is on our shoulders. Those of us is on our shoulders. And I want to be, like I said, one of those 9 armor bearers when it comes to November the 3rd. So I just want to briefly go through my platform here. And like I said, I'm not a politician per se. I'm not one that's going to make a lot of promises, but as a servant leader, I can promise you 3 things. I can promise you 3 things. I will listen, I will care, and as a result of that, I will work. I will work. So that's what I'm saying. So there are some platforms that's very special to me. And first of all, the most important of all, even when I was running for school board, this will always be at the top of my agenda, that every equitable education for every student in the city of Chesapeake. Every child in Chesapeake, they deserve an excellent education, regardless of the zip code, the income, ethnicity, disability, special educational need. And as a councilwoman, I will examine school funding because the city council, we don't deal with policies and education and stuff like that, but we do control the level of the funding that's appropriated to the school system. And I will support responsible funding for safe and accessible buildings, modern learning environments, technology, and facilities that meet the needs of all of the students, even those with disabilities. Because as a city councilman, I would like to advocate that the city council and the school board, that we would come together. So we will be together and make sure that the funding and everything is equitable across the city. We were talking about earlier, we've got all types of situations in Chesapeake, rural, city, everything, you name it, we got it. And, it reminds me, Mr. Overton, when the schools were first segregated, and our schools, we got the raggedy books and, our buildings weren't up to par like the other buildings. And in a way, sometimes that happens even in Chesapeake, probably even in Portsmouth. So that's one thing. I want to make sure that everything is equitable across the board in Chesapeake for our children. I remember Whitney Houston's song. She said, I believe the children are our future. We teach them well and let them lead the way. We teach them all well. We provide for them all well and let them lead the way. So that's one of my platforms. And then the next platform is affordable housing. And I think that's a concern in Portsmouth and everywhere, it is. And,
the lack thereof.
No, then the lack thereof. And the thing about it is the people who teach our children or protect our neighborhoods, that care for our families or serve our community, they should be able to afford to live in Chesapeake. And I'm going to support when elected. I'm not even going to say if, I'm going to say when elected. I will support a range of housing choices for working families, for seniors, for veterans, people with disabilities, and even first-time home buyers. In Norfolk, when I worked in Norfolk, they had a good program because right near my school in Berkeley, they had housing for those that were in law enforcement, for teachers and things like that. And we need more of that in Chesapeake. We have what is called some block funds, and I will work to maximize the funds that go to the Chesapeake Federal Home and Community Development Block Grants, and so for rehabilitation of homes, accessibility improvements, home ownership assistance, and so forth. Because affordable housing has to be planned responsibly. And when I'm on the city council with our city council group, we need to evaluate closely the land use and the development proposals based on affordability. Now, we have a lot of development, right down my street. I had to go to city council to address, some of the things that was going on in regards to the redevelopment, even in my neighborhood. But the question is, I'm not even sure that the development that they're getting ready to come up here is going to be affordable for most of the people that need it, especially in this economy. So that is what I want to advocate. More affordable housing. Like I said, it's not something I can do by myself, but with the rest of the city council, I think we can come together and do that, because it's not simply to approve the growth, but we have to consider the long-term effects in Chesapeake. And then again, I think this all of these issues is not just unique to Portsmouth or to Chesapeake, but to all of our surrounding areas here in Virginia. The next is affordable and accessible health care and mental health services. The city council, we cannot set private insurance premiums, but we can kind of help to remove the local barriers to care. We need to support partnerships that bring preventive care, behavioral health services, substance use treatment, and reliable health information closer to the people who need them. We have an important resource in Chesapeake Integrated Behavioral Health Care, and I will advocate for adequate city support, qualified appointments to this oversight board, strong crisis services, and better public awareness of same-day access. Sometimes, especially in Chesapeake, we're not even talking about accessibility to get the health care, to afford it, even just physically getting there. And because to me, accessibility also means being able to reach the care. So I would encourage partnerships among health providers, nonprofits, schools, first responders, and transportation services so that seniors, people with disabilities, young people, and residents will have reliable transportation so they won't fall through the cracks. We've had an issue not too long ago that came up before city council. There's a center for health, but because of the busy traffic and the no bus service or sidewalks, the people that need the care to get to the health center can't get there. So all those types of things that I would advocate for when I'm on city council. Mm-hmm. We were talking about earlier how spread out Chesapeake is. And this is one thing that I would be an advocate for, similar to Virginia Beach, equal representation and single member voting districts. Just like we said, Chesapeake is a large and diverse city, and every community, I believe, deserves a clearly identifiable representative who understands the specific concerns. I'm living in Western Branch area, Jolliffe and Deep Creek and all of that. I don't know enough about what's happening in Hickory and Great Bridge and South Norfolk and all of those things. So with a single member district, that would give residents greater accountability, because we would know exactly, they would know exactly who is responsible for representing their area. And, and this is not dividing Chesapeake, it is about ensuring that every part of Chesapeake has a meaningful voice while council members, while we continue to work together for the good of the entire city. I know there's been some controversy, but I really support that for Chesapeake, especially because we are so wide open, like Virginia Beach. So that's why. I mean, Portsmouth is smaller, and maybe you all don't have that concern like we do here in Chesapeake. How you
Yeah,
feel
it
about
comes
that?
up every once in a while, and if
Yeah.
you go back in history, of course, we were divided like that, and
Yeah.
that was an advantage, even though we were small. But I kind of agree with you, especially with a city the size of Chesapeake, and like you
Yes.
said, you're in the Deep Creek, and then you got Hickory way on the other side of town, and you have South Norfolk, which a lot of people don't know that's Chesapeake, but it
Right.
is, and
Yes.
you have cities like Norfolk that have that. They have at-large candidates, and then they have
Mm-hmm. Have the
certain
mix.
districts. And Newport
Right.
News is like that as well.
Okay.
And talking to Tina Vick, who is a council or a person over there in Newport News, she
Yes.
represents a district, and it's the district she grew up in, and
Yes.
it's an advantage to her, she says, because she can uh, focus on that area and the people there. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, chew gum and walk at the same time. At the
There
same
you
time,
go.
she can focus on the whole city,
Yes. Yes.
but sometimes in areas like that, and I think that you're right in that. I don't know what it would take if it's an
Mm-hmm.
active city council. It probably has to be a charter change, and
Yes.
that would
Yes.
involve the state general assembly
Right.
people
Right.
to
Right.
change the charter in order to do that. So
Right.
I haven't always heard. Maybe that's been an issue. I haven't always heard that being an
It
issue,
comes
but
up. It comes
every
up
once in a while,
every
and then
once
it
in a
goes away.
while,
Yeah,
especially in Chesapeake, because we're striving for a more diverse city council.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah. That's
I
been
think
like
that
that,
would
but yeah,
be a good way in order to make the city council more diverse if we had the single member voting districts. So
right. And it
I
wouldn't have to be, like you still could have some at-large people, and
right,
then you
exactly.
have certain districts that, especially the ones that are spread out on the
Yes,
outskirts, where,
yes,
like you
yes.
said, and it's not unique for what you said. People that live in Deep Creek, you know, have no idea what goes on in Hickory, and some of them
Mhm,
don't even
mhm.
consider Hickory voting.
Mhm.
And far as people running for office,
Right.
how that could help,
Mhm. Mhm.
as far as
Mhm.
getting elected, and like you said, creating more diversity, because you wouldn't have to run at large.
Right.
You could run for your district and represent them as well as
Everyone
the whole
come
city.
together. And
Yeah, so
right,
I agree with
right,
that.
right,
Yeah,
right.
and
Uh,
I
oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. You
You
finish your
had a
point.
point there.
Uh,
Oh,
and this is it's sort of changing that. I know you mentioned something about affordable housing, and I think all the
mhm,
cities in Hampton Roads where
mhm,
the affordable housing is, I know
mhm,
that's the case here in Portsmouth, are the older neighborhoods, and that's
mhm,
where people are going. But all the older neighborhoods are built out,
mhm,
and
mhm,
I can
mhm.
see, and that's where you see uh, neighborhoods that were predominantly one way changing,
Mhm.
because a lot of people
Changing.
are coming into the neighborhoods because they're more affordable.
Yes.
And I like to mention this too. Chesapeake has the second lowest tax rate per hundred.
Mhm, mhm,
Virginia Beach is sort of like 97, y'all like 101,
mhm,
which
mhm.
that helps too. But
Right.
you
It
have to
does.
have the housing in order for people to
Exactly.
take advantage of that. So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's a very important piece. And with some of the new housing, and one thing that's been happening here in Portsmouth, as far as apartments, they've been approving apartments that uh, are rent control conscious. I mean, affordable housing.
Mhm,
Now, some people
mhm.
fought it because well, we don't want that, because a certain
Right.
stigma that they
Right.
feel comes with that, but that's not the case. These are hardworking people
Mhm.
that still can't afford these
Exactly.
high prices that
Mm-hmm.
most of these construction development projects uh,
Mm-hmm.
demand. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean that's a big point, and we need somebody,
Mm-hmm.
to push for that kind of affordability.
And I know you've heard these statistics already that most people can't afford to buy their first time home until they're like age 40,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you have young people that are coming out of school. A lot of them owe student loans, and they can't find the jobs that's out there now, and it's tough, and that's across the board. And so the affordable housing piece is just something that's applicable to all of us right now. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
me, being a realtor at one time in the '90s, it was quite
Mhm.
different then because a lot of my customers and clients were younger people, and that was my focus, trying to make sure
Mhm.
younger people got into a home rather than renting for 10
Right.
years when they had a good enough job, or
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
educate them on what they need to do
To
to
do.
qualify for a new home.
Mhm.
But like you
Mhm.
said, yes, pushing it back now
Mhm.
to, you have to work a certain amount of time. So
Right.
I,
Right.
I
Right.
wanted to ask you this too. You mentioned like the school board, and I'll say this too. People that don't know, you did run, and you mentioned that you did run for school board. Was it
Mhm.
one time, twice,
Actually, 3 times.
3 times? Okay, so
Yes. Yes.
and that definitely, one thing about us black folks, and I got to throw this in
Mhm.
here, the
Mhm.
resilience of us, because there are certain people that will run and once or twice and say, hey, that's it,
Mhm.
because it
Mhm.
takes a lot out of you
Yes. Yes.
physically, mentally, and financially to run for
Yes.
office. And
Yes. Yes.
so, how do you feel like those different times? And again, I appreciate your resilience to keep coming
Mhm.
back because
Mhm.
within yourself you have something to offer, and and
Yes.
and that's usually most people that get into office are not first timers. Two of the people I talked to previously from Portsmouth, it was their
Mhm.
second run.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
One was an incumbent, but he ran twice before he got on there, and another one
Mhm.
is running now, but he had
Mhm.
already run again. So,
Mhm.
they are the kind of people. That's why I wanted to bring that up because the
Yeah.
voters need to know that because that's important. It should be important to voters how the resilience of the candidates that are running. This is not the first rodeo, and
Yeah.
they have the passion to
I have
serve,
the
and they
passion.
keep doing it. Right.
And when before I decided to run for city council, because I said, should I try school board again? And I guess the Lord said maybe you need to go up a little bit higher, where you would not just affect the school system, but also the city at large. So one of my heroes, I would say, because a lot of people that you see that, like you said, some people have run 2 or 3 times, and there is one person that's on the city council right now, and I got to give him a shout out, and that is Councilman now Les Smith.
Yeah.
It took him
Yeah. Yeah. He
four
ran for.
times,
Yeah, and
and
he
his
didn't
fourth
he run for
time,
sheriff? He ran for
uh,
sheriff as
I'm
well.
not sure for sure, but he did run for
Mm,
city council 3 times,
yeah.
and he has been my inspiration. And I said, Les, I'm thinking about it, but he's been my hero. And that fourth time was a charm. But he had run for city council. But to get back, I just have a passion to
And
serve.
each
I
time you
just
pick
want
up
to,
each time
and
you
you pick
pick
up
up
experience.
experience,
You do. You
you
do.
know,
You pick up
right.
experience as you
And
go.
you get a chance to learn more
Hmm.
about Chesapeake. They said, "Wow, I didn't
Yes.
even know that
Yes.
area was
I'm
there."
learning more. I always go back to another scripture in the Bible where Romans 8:28, for we know that all things work together for good to those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. See, I have a purpose, and I've got to pursue that purpose no matter how many times that it takes. Not that everything is good. It's not good that I have lost 3 times, but it's worked together for good. Because, like you say, I'm gaining the experience, I'm learning more and more, and I'm going to be more prepared to hit the ground running on day one when I become a member of the Chesapeake City Council.
Yeah. And those people that want to talk or make an argument about separation of church and state,
Mm-hmm.
if you go back in history and even up until the present, some of our greatest leaders were also ministers. And people that are
Yes,
old enough to remember Adam Clayton Powell didn't know
yes,
that he was an ordained minister. That
yes,
was who he was, but he was also very effective as a congressman. So,
mm-hmm.
uh, you know, you know, just get that out of your head. That
Yes,
it shouldn't be that way, because they already, people that are in the ministry are already servants,
mm-hmm.
so they know how to serve.
And
So
I'm
keep that in mind.
reminded from your city, Portsmouth, Bishop Edmonds. I
Right.
know he served on the city council and he served admirably as a minister of St. Mark, and
Yeah.
so forth. And I admire people like that.
And the
That
history
serve
shows
in
we've had
ministry.
several
Several,
pastors that
y'all
have
have
served.
had several ministers to serve on local government, and Bishop Edmonds really stands out for me. So, yes. So, anyway, yes,
And it wouldn't hurt to have someone that knows how to pray,
uh, yes, yes,
that knows
yes,
how to pray for
yes,
our cities. Yeah,
yes, yes,
that
yes,
has that connection. But anyway,
yes,
I jest in
yes,
that. But
yes.
uh,
And I
I
also
really think that's important.
I thank God for my career as a guidance counselor, because a lot
Mhm.
of things that's going to happen and serving, it's going to require more than anything else listening and to the concerns of what people are going through, and having that empathy for their concerns as well. Because we have someone in office now that does not have that, that does not have
Yeah,
empathy, doesn't listen, and so forth. And so I think those two things, as far as being already a servant in the ministry, as well as being a guidance counselor, I think those two things is really going to assist me when I do become a member of city council.
yeah, and by just the pure mentioning that, the present national administration. This is a question I usually save for the end, but I think you have something that you want
Mm-hmm.
to talk about in the end. But so I'm gonna ask this, and I've been asking this of all the candidates, and even
Uh-huh.
people who are not candidates but are hold elected office. You know, traditionally, on local politics, local elected office, in Virginia at least, you're
Mm-hmm.
not required to state what your party affiliation is. On
Right,
the
right,
ballot,
right,
it's going to have an
right,
I behind your name,
right,
independent.
right.
uh, and that's rightfully so, because a lot of the issues are pretty local. Like they say, all politics is
Mm-hmm.
local. But
Mm-hmm.
lately, it's been something that a lot of people are concerned about.
Right.
When they're vetting candidates, I
Mm-hmm.
wonder how they feel about the present administration and some of their policies that they are putting forth that are trickling down to the localities, especially
Yes.
when you think about the school system, when school funding is cut off up at the
Mm-hmm.
top, and then it
Mm-hmm.
affects the funding that the state gives,
Right,
and it
right.
affects the localities, where the localities have to sort of change their budget process because they're depending on certain monies that come
Exactly.
from state. So
Exactly. Exactly.
some voters it might be important, and I'm one of them. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to me, uh, you know, on a local level, not so much if you're a Republican or Democrat, because
Well, this is what I'm
in
going
our
to
cities,
say.
yeah, go ahead and say.
This is what I'm going to say, and I'll just be very transparent with you. I am a independent leaning Democrat, or
Hmm.
Democrat leaning independent. Let me put it that way.
Hmm.
That's I've always believed that the Democrat party has been more for the people, because the issues we're dealing with, they're not a Republican issue, they're not a Democratic issue. These are people issues. And what, like I always say, if one of us win, we all win, whether we are Democratic or
You're still
Republican.
going to
Yes.
represent
But for
everybody.
those that are concerned about what my side is, I am a Democratic leaning independent. I will put it that way.
And the reason I asked that, because it doesn't matter, and I mentioned this on a show we had last night. Doesn't matter locally, what your party affiliation, if you're worrying about a pothole on your street, or if you're worrying about the tax rate or something like that. But when it comes down to policies or ideologies that come from the very top, the national level, or the president administration, and it starts affecting us here locally, as far as health costs and funding for education, then it becomes important to voters, or some voters, maybe not all, maybe some people don't care, but some voters who really are going to vet candidates. It's good to kind of know, let me just put it frankly, is this person a true Trumper, that believes in everything that, and that might be disqualifying. It might be disqualifying for some people if the person is a true Democrat, because they do not go along with any of the policies that come from the left or a Democrat. So, that's why it might be important. Some people say I might bring that up because I'm a Democrat and you just want to bash Republicans. But it goes both ways. Some people who are not Democrat, that might be important to them to know, okay, you're a Democrat, okay, well, it might not totally affect my decision, but it's going to play a part in my vetting of the candidate.
And you bring up a good point, because when I ran for school board those 3 times, I always ran as an independent. And sometimes I said, well, maybe that hurt me because I didn't say I was a Republican, or I didn't say that I was a Democrat. But for now, I have been seeking endorsements from different Democratic PACs and so forth. And but I can say, I'm going to still stick with it. I am a Democratic leaning independent. So that's who I am, for those that want to know.
And it's nothing wrong with admitting that if you're a candidate. I mean, if you feel like it might hurt you, it might hurt you. But I think you're being transparent. If you're trying to not say it or dodge around it because you think it might hurt you, and that's what you truly are, you're doing a disservice, I think, to the voters, and that's just my opinion there. Anyway, just wanted to get your opinion.
And I want to piggyback on that again, and you sparked something, because I've always heard. I remember when Kamala Harris was running, and even when Obama was running, it says, even if you didn't vote for me, I'm going to support. I care about everybody. I'm going to be here to help everybody. In contrast to the administration that we have now, we even know that he restricts help. He's restricted help to states that voted Democratic, and things like that. And that is so sad. No matter being the president, that's supposed to be for all of the people. So it's very sad. So you do bring a good point, because some things have trickled down from the top, and it may be very important, but it should not be like that. No matter if we're Democrat or Republican, we're supposed to be for all the people.
Yeah, in the past it didn't matter as much, but it did. Because we pretty much knew who was a member of the Democratic Party, who was a member of the Republican Party. But like I said. How can you help me in my neighborhood? How can you help me? How's your vote? So that was more important. But now it's a little different. I want to move on to this stat I saw about the population growth of people under 18, in that just showing that Chesapeake is getting younger. Y'all have the highest population of like 24% of all the 7 cities
Mm-hmm.
of people over under 18.
Under.
That means people are
Yes.
growing into a younger
Yes.
generation there. So
Mm-hmm.
how and I guess you being a counselor and being in the school system, you have a history of working with younger people. But so how is that going to be? How is that sort of included in your platform to deal with some of those issues that
Mm-hmm.
younger people or younger adults might have?
Oh, that plays into some of our growing pains
Mhm.
in Chesapeake, because we have some of the top um, performing schools in
Mhm.
Chesapeake. And we've had this, like I said, it's been this, I say, growing pains, because they're building. And I tell you, as a guidance counselor, let me just put it this way.
Once you
Um,
build a school, you need another one.
Yes, you need another one. And what is so unique about Chesapeake? A lot of times, young families move here because of how good our schools are. They want to know what schools first are in Chesapeake before they decide on where they live. A lot of times, they'll call their realtor and they'll say, where can I live so I can go to this particular school and this particular, and we see more younger families that are coming in with their children, and I think that's one of the reasons why we see a younger bracket that is growing, and we have to have those things for that younger group of people that are coming in. One of my platform areas, and sometimes people don't understand, but there's a group of people that we understand it, that instead of all these data centers, I want to end up with that one too.
Mhm.
um, there had been a study. We needed a like a multi-purpose venue. We have some high schools that graduate. I think Grassfield is the one that graduates over 500 graduates each year. I mean, we have it like that, and we are so proud of our young people. And we say, we don't need to be going over to Norfolk and having our graduations over there. We need
Mhm.
to come up with our own venue right here, a
Yeah.
multi-purpose venue where we not only have our graduations, but we would have we got the top school that has the boys going to the NFL from Oscar Smith High School,
Mhm.
and then we have this top talent in Chesapeake. We know our Tony Award winner Adrian Warren right here, but to have those things in Chesapeake that will support the young people and the activities, because yes, it's true, we are growing, our young population is growing, and we have to be ready here in Chesapeake. And I welcome it because they're going to be our future. They're going to be our future. And so I think we need to prepare and to have those things available for them in Chesapeake.
Yeah, and talking about that, going over to different cities, we have to do that too here. Of
Yeah,
course, have
everybody
our
has to do
graduations at ODU, which
it.
which is fine. But yeah, I think all the cities should have their own. Kids
Hmm.
that spend most of their school time,
Yeah,
up until the 12 years, and
yeah,
then they
yeah.
want to graduate in their city.
They want to graduate in their cities. And
Yes,
now the thing about Chesapeake, it's been on the books for years,
yeah.
and the
It's hard to
funding
believe
and
city
everything,
of that
and we
size
still
doesn't
haven't
have.
pushed. So we're still pushing, and the people know already that is going to be a major issue that I am going to push when I get on city council. I really am. I went before city council a few weeks, and the mayor said, "Well, we're looking to when we find it." Okay, but I'm really going to push that. I'm glad you brought that up, because we do have we're so proud of our young people in the city of Chesapeake, but they got to have somewhere to flourish as well too. And there their attributes to be displayed, and
Yeah,
so
of
forth.
course,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
little easier to push with a seat
Hmm.
on city council once you
Yes.
get 3 other votes.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
let me ask you about regionalism, which is important for an area like Hampton Roads. And as far as I can look at it, it's been pretty good. A lot of the cities working together. Each city, I think, has its own niche, and
Hmm.
and but there are certain times where the region has to come together and put all their population numbers together in order
Hmm.
to bring a big
Hmm.
company into the area, and
Hmm.
whatever city that ends up getting that company,
Hmm.
it's usually you're looking at Suffolk and Chesapeake, that has the most vacant land mass for a big
Right.
company to come.
Right. Right.
Just like what is Amazon?
Hmm. Hmm.
Just came to Chesapeake, but oh no, it's Chesapeake or Suffolk.
Suffolk. That's Suffolk.
Suffolk, yeah,
Right over the line
right
to
on
be.
the line, right on
You
the
just
line.
pass through
Just
Chesapeake,
missed
and
it.
there's
Just
Amazon, there's Suffolk. Yes.
just
Yes.
missed it. But
Hmm.
regionalism is important, and you know, uh, I guess you feel like that's important to keep that kind of relationship between all the cities, because with each
Hmm.
city having their own niche and supporting each other when it's needed, and
Right.
kind of competing, because if you get a big company and it goes to Newport News or Hampton,
Hmm.
the whole region usually benefits. As
Benefits.
far as
Right.
jobs and
Right.
homes, not everybody's going to live in that city, so
Right.
just
Right.
just I
Right.
guess your take on regionalism, real
Yeah,
quick.
I think, like I said before, just like you just mentioned, Amazon. Although Amazon is like right over the Chesapeake line in Suffolk, we are all benefiting from
Mhm.
Amazon. The people were saying at the city council meeting when they said that the Costco was coming out there to Greenbrier Mall, and some people say, "Oh, Norfolk, Portsmouth. Oh, we even going to have a closer place because the Costco people in Portsmouth, the Costco being in Greenbrier Mall is going to be closer to people in Portsmouth, people in Suffolk, and so forth, not just Chesapeake. And I think regionalism is good, especially when we can come together at some point. I was at a city council meeting, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and how the law enforcement uh, people are coming together, first responders, and they would, everybody was thanking everybody else from all the other cities and those things. And uh, I think as if you're saying regionalism as far as helping all the cities, because that's my thing. If one wins, we all win. If one wins, we all win, whether we're in Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Suffolk, or wherever.
Yeah, but the competition is good too.
Oh yeah,
They're
competition is
competing
good.
for different things. These cities
Yeah,
compete, but certain things are best suited for certain cities.
for certain
Of
cities.
course, Portsmouth has the history
Mm-hmm.
niche. We go back
Mm-hmm.
to colonial days, so we have that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, now this comes up with all city council people, and wherever you go,
Mm-hmm.
the issue of crime, in which all the cities throughout Hampton Roads
Mm-hmm.
suffer, from increases or decreases, and a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
the actions against crime is reactionary. I mean,
Right.
you can't act on it until it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some situations where you can put some
Prevent
preventative measures in
things.
place, hoping
Yes.
that you can address that well. What
Yeah.
is, because city council can't go out there and stop all the
They
crime, but
can't
you
do it
can
all right.
put things in place. Well, what would you do as far as that is preventative measures, or how would you approach that? Oh,
That is my wheelhouse there because when I was in Norfolk, when I was being in Chesapeake, uh, I supported mentoring programs through the schools, through law enforcement, and different types of things. I think that is a big piece when we're talking about crime and preventing crime. That we would support more like mentoring programs. I like the way law enforcement, I think in Portsmouth, how they come together with the neighborhoods and everything, and be there for the young people. And and a lot of things start at home. A lot of things start at home, and I think together that we can. Now in Chesapeake, our crime rate is ticking up a little bit, but we all, like you said, we all have a crime problem. But I think the more that I believe that city council and so forth to support, because we want to be proactive. Like you said, we just don't want to react, because a lot of times it's too late. But
Right.
preventative actions maybe coming down from city council or so forth in our schools and so forth. I think that's a key thing to know how to be a good citizen, and to conduct yourself in those manners through our schools, through law enforcement and so forth. I think that's a big piece. And I've already been part of that, even in Chesapeake. At one time, the Mount, they had put out a contest and to the schools, and they asked for someone to come up with a good mentoringship program. And my program was selected, and we had it for 3 years. It was a gang prevention program, and I know we prevented. If one person stays out of a gang, we did our job. And so that's my take on it. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and we can almost go back to regionalism as far as crime is concerned, because even though they you see the category of each city and where their crime rate is, but we are so close together. If the crime
Yes,
happens here in Portsmouth, it's going to
it
affect some
affects
people in
just, yeah,
Chesapeake that
sure,
are
sure,
directly connected with. So it's
right,
also individual approach and a regional approach. And I
yes,
always
yes,
use this platform too for cities to take advantage of our universities that are in the area that have schools
mm-hmm.
of psychology, and you have people there and students learning human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing some of those people in, because a lot of times we bring in consultants from Ohio or something like that, and to use our
Mm-hmm.
university that we have programs that are studying human behavior and that are
Mm-hmm.
here in the area is, to
Mm-hmm.
me, an advantage, and it's cheaper if you
Mm-hmm.
want to bring some of those people in. Like we on this platform, we bring in people from Norfolk State all the time from the Department of Psychology when we are talking about those issues.
Yeah,
And I
and we
think the
do.
cities should take
Yeah,
more advantage of that,
yes.
and include that in the proactiveness
We
of fighting
should
crime.
we should increase the mental health access,
Right.
getting
Because a lot
access
of times it
to more
starts
mental health.
way
It starts
before.
in the mind. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And
Yeah.
being a guidance counselor, I've seen it. I've seen
Right.
it,
Right. You've
and it
seen
starts,
firsthand.
and we need more mental health access. People can get more access to mental health as well as their physical health as well.
So, as we wind down, I know you want to get into things, but like all the issues that are key to
Hmm.
all the cities, like environmental, infrastructure, housing, and the economic challenges that all the cities have. And I think you covered a lot of that today. And as you
Hmm.
go forward, all these different questions are going to come up and issues that you're going to have to address. So
Hmm.
I appreciate you coming on and candidly talking about certain issues, especially the issue about you know your party affiliation, things like
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it might not be important to some, but it really is important to others when they
Hmm.
vet
Hmm.
their candidates. But
And I have to
go ahead.
stress this last thing, because we are
Mhm.
having a city council meeting this evening
Oh, okay.
on this data center situation. And I
Now,
want to
where
say,
is it proposed? What part of Chesapeake
over
is
the Fentress part of Chesapeake, There's even talking about over, like you said, we got these wide open spaces, the Fentress
Right.
overlay over there. And we have been the citizens, we are against it. And I want to say, me, Gayle M. Gilmore, I do not support additional data centers in Chesapeake or in Virginia, period. They can place enormous demands on our electricity, water, our public infrastructure, while really not generating a lot of jobs and so forth, because we do not want to become the data center corridor or data center mecca. you know.
Yeah.
So, as a councilwoman, and we're the meeting this evening is very important. I know it's going to be a packed meeting this evening, and as a councilwoman, I would vote against any rezoning requests or special approvals and things like that, and taxpayer incentives for this new data center, just like Senator Lucas was talking about in Portsmouth. And because we have all of this wide open space, we are just a target for these data centers that are coming through. And see, we just believe that it will just affect our quality of life really here in Chesapeake. Because we don't want to be the mecca. Somebody said the city council be. We don't want to be the mecca of data centers. We want to be the mecca of dreams and growth in the city of Chesapeake. And we don't want our resources, our water, our electricity, and all of that to be, just consumed like this. So that is my last thing, because this is going to be a very important city council meeting this evening. And one last thing, if you would allow me to do so.
Sure, go ahead.
Of course, there are 77 days left to election day. And also early voting starts September the 18th. I have a fundraiser. I'm just trying to get the word out. And, elections and running cost money. They're funding. I got to get me some more signs out there. I'd be rolling through Portsmouth sometimes, and I see the signs of Mr. Tillage, Miss
It's
Lucas,
a lot easier
Mr.
in Portsmouth
Moody.
to
I
get
tell
enough
you,
signs.
and
But
I'm trying
Chesapeake,
in Chesapeake, and I've been trying to put my signs near Senator Warner signs in Chesapeake. But I need y'all to help me with this fundraiser. I got a great fundraiser. Go to GayleGilmore.com, where you can also see my platform, but support me at GayleGilmore.com with any amount, any donation. And on Labor Day, on September the 7th, I'm going to draw a name from all the donations, and I am going to bless somebody. Like Norman Hutchins says, somebody going to be going to have a blessing with their name on it. I'm going to bless someone with half of the proceeds that I get from this fundraiser.
oh, wow,
So,
that's great.
because my thing is, if one wins, we all win. We
Right.
all win. So I just need your support. Many of you have supported me in my previous fundraisers, but please support me on this one. One wins, we all win fundraiser. Any amount, you can see my platform at GayleGilmore.com, and you can also donate to this fundraiser there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Overton.
Yeah, quite. And I wanted to mention one thing about the data centers. A lot of people will argue that, with technology like it is, we need those data centers around, but it's not a whole lot of history about, what kind of long-term damage it might do to the land and the people around it. And it's no guarantee that the data centers will be needed for long term. As technology advances, it might be something different in order to handle that demand that technology is creating. So just look at the whole, all the facts of it, and look down the road and make sure, if you're in Chesapeake, that you attend that council meeting so you can be informed, for one thing. So you'll know exactly what's going on. You might look at it as one thing, because you made a good point. It's not like it can be a huge building with very few employment opportunities because of the technology. that it
Yes, because
takes,
we
or
know
the
that
lack of,
AI is
yeah, it
taking
doesn't take,
most of the jobs
yeah.
anyway. And somebody said, well, you'll have jobs with them building the actual data center. Well, what happens after the data centers are built? You have
Yeah.
no more construction, so I see there's more cons than pros for the data centers. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
it.
it had to be a better way. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, thanks a lot. We appreciate you coming on and sharing your platform. And
Yes.
make sure you remember the uh, three parts of her platform, that she will listen, she cares, and she will work once
I'm gonna
she's
work.
elected for the city council. And
Yes.
we thank you again. And I guess you have a lot of things lined up, and make sure, like she said, you support her.
Yes.
All campaigns need money to make it. Wish it
Yeah.
wasn't that way, but that's the way
It
it
is.
is. And
Yes.
especially in a
Yes.
city the size of Chesapeake,
That's a
the
key.
importance
Yeah.
of signs, get people to know or
Word
familiar
out.
with your name, and to
Yes.
spread them out through Chesapeake. It's a lot easier to do it in Portsmouth than it is
Yeah, then in
Chesapeake.
Chesapeake. I tell you. Yes.
So anything, yeah. So what a great conversation, and we wish you all the luck, and appreciate the experience that you've had and your resilience, like we talked about, to keep coming back and offering yourself up for service. Something
Yes.
that you've been doing all your life.
Yes. All my life. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Nothing new. Yes.
Okay. Thanks everybody for watching this segment of City Talk with Slim. And make sure that you share this information, and make sure that you like and comment and subscribe to our channel, the Portsmouth, the Portsmouth Coffee Talk Podcast Network. We need your support as well.
Yes.
But anyway, until next time, we'll see you. And Gayle, take care, and give my regards to James and the rest of your family.
And Chesapeake, don't forget, if you can't remember Gayle Gilmore, remember that Gigi cares. Gigi cares.
Gigi cares. How about that? Was that the grandma name?
Yeah. No, that's my name.
Oh,
Gigi Gilmore. Gayle.
yeah. Okay.
Gigi
All right.
cares. Yes.
Gigi cares. All right.
That's
Just
right.
keep that in mind. All right.
Yes. All right.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time, and have a great
Thank
day.
you, Mr. Overton.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
you.
right.
Be our guest on the Portsmouth Coffee Talk.